I thought the worst thing in marriage was cheating. I was wrong. The worst thing is when your new family tries to steal your inheritance and your husband helps them do it. When I married Jason, I made the deliberate choice to keep 4 houses my grandmother Elizabeth left me a secret from him. Thank God I did, because just 10 days after our wedding, his sister Carol showed up at my door with a notary. Her smug smile faded fast when she realized who she was dealing with. At our wedding, all eyes were on Jason and me as we exchanged vows and rings, but my gaze kept drifting, not to my groom, but to his sister Carol. Her smile was too forced, too self-satisfied, too premature. She was already celebrating something I hadn't agreed to. That's when I knew keeping my grandmother's 4 houses a secret was the smartest decision I'd ever made. The reception was all champagne toasts and clinking glasses. But I couldn't shake the feeling that Carol knew something. As we cut the cake, I caught her whispering to Jason's mom, leaning in like she was sharing a state secret. When she noticed me watching, she raised her glass in my direction and said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear, to family, to sharing everything with each other. Her words sent a chill down my spine. I forced a smile, but in my head I heard my grandmother Elizabeth's voice, clear as a bell. Protect what's yours, Martha, even from those you love. Before I go on, I want to thank you for being here with me on this journey. If you believe women should protect their financial independence, please hit that subscribe button. It's free, and it helps us share this story with more women. Now, let's dive into what happened next. My grandmother drilled this into me from the time I was 12, sitting in her tiny kitchen watching her count rent checks from her tenants. She'd clawed her way out of poverty, saving every penny and buying her first house with cash she'd hidden in glass jars under her bed. Then came the second house, the third, the fourth. 4 houses total, modest but solid in neighborhoods that kept growing in value. These aren't just buildings, she'd say, spreading lease agreements across the dining table. They're freedom, security, proof a woman can stand on her own 2 feet. She'd survived the Great Depression, watched her own mother lose everything when her father walked out. Grandma Elizabeth swore she'd never be that vulnerable, and she raised me to be the same. When she passed away 8 months ago, I was devastated, but also stunned. Her lawyer read her will in a sterile office that smelled of old coffee and cleaning solution. The 4 houses, worth nearly $600,000, were mine. I sat in that leather chair, staring at the paperwork, her final words echoing from her hospital bed. "Don't tell anyone right away," she'd whispered, her voice barely audible. "Watch first. See who they really are when they think you have nothing to offer." Now, watching Carol at my own wedding reception, I understood what she meant. Jason's family was perfectly pleasant during our engagement. Polite dinners, small talk about the weather, and Jason's job at an insurance firm. But I noticed things, little comments about how lucky Jason was to find someone so practical. Carol especially was curious about my living situation. Why was I renting an apartment if I could afford to buy? Didn't I have family money? What about my grandmother's estate? Surely she left something. I dodged every question with vague answers and quick subject changes. Let them think I was just a school teacher living on a modest salary. Let them assume I was marrying Jason for security, not love. But that day, something shifted. Carol's questions stopped, but her focus intensified. She threw glances my way during the speeches, her expression calculating. When Jason's dad gave a toast about new beginnings and a shared future. Carol's eyes locked onto me like she was solving a puzzle. During the dancing, she cornered me by the gift table. "You know, Martha," she said, adjusting her pearl necklace, "I've been thinking about your living situation. That apartment you rent, it's not really suitable for a married couple, is it?" I took a sip of wine, buying time. "It's fine for now." "Oh, but Jason deserves better. We all do." Her smile was sharp at the edges. "I've been looking into some investment opportunities, family investments, where everyone wins." "That's nice," I said neutrally. "I think you'd be surprised at the possibilities when families pool their resources." She paused, watching my reaction. Especially when someone comes into unexpected money. My heart stopped. How could she know? I'd been so careful. The inheritance was handled through my grandmother's private lawyer, not a family attorney. I funneled the rental income into a separate account Jason never saw. "I'm not sure what you mean," I said cautiously. Carol's laugh was like shattering glass. "Oh, Martha, you're sweeter than I thought. Don't worry. Family takes care of family. We'll talk soon." She walked away, leaving me standing there, wine glass trembling in my hand. I watched her rejoin Jason's parents, saw their sidelong glances my way, their subtle nods of understanding. They knew. Somehow, they knew about the houses. I found Jason on the dance floor twirling his little niece. When the song ended, I pulled him aside. "Can we talk for a second?" "Sure, Mrs. Thompson." He grinned, using my new married name. "What's up? You look pale." I almost told him everything right then. The houses, the inheritance, Carol's weird comments. But something stopped me. Maybe it was how his family had been circling us all night like sharks smelling blood in the water. Maybe it was the memory of my grandmother's wrinkled hands gripping mine in that hospital room. "Nothing," I said instead. "Just wanted to say I love you." He kissed my forehead. "Love you too, more than you know." As we danced, I caught Carol's eye across the room. She was on her phone, her free hand gesturing animatedly. When she saw me looking, she waved and smiled, but her eyes were cold. I made a decision in that moment. Whatever Carol was planning, whatever she thought she knew, I'd wait. I'd watch. I'd let her make the first move while I prepared my defense. Those 4 houses weren't just my inheritance. They were my safety net. And I'd be damned if I let anyone take them from me before I understood what I was fighting for. 10 days of marital bliss, shattered with 3 sharp knocks on my apartment door. I was folding laundry in my tiny living room, humming to the radio when the sound came. Not a neighbor's casual tap or a delivery guy's soft knock. This was commanding, demanding, saying, "I'm here on business." Through the peephole, I saw Carol standing on my doorstep. She wasn't alone. Beside her was a woman in a navy blazer clutching a leather briefcase like it held the crown jewels. Carol was dressed to kill. Sharp black pantsuit, hair in a perfect updo, lipstick that could cut glass. She looked like she was heading for a corporate takeover, not a friendly chat with her new sister-in-law. "Martha!" Carol's voice rang out, sweet as honey but with an edge that made my skin crawl. "I know you're in there. I brought coffee from that shop you mentioned." I opened the door slowly, keeping the chain on. "Carol, what are you doing here?" "Oh, don't be silly." She held up a cardboard tray with 2 overpriced coffee cups. "I thought we could chat, sister to sister, and I brought my friend Patricia. She's a notary, in case we need to make anything official." My stomach dropped. A notary. On a Tuesday morning, unannounced. "I wasn't expecting company," I said, still not unlatching the chain. "The best conversations happen when you least expect them." Carol's smile was dazzling, but her eyes were calculating. "Come on, Martha, let us in." Patricia drove across town. Patricia, the notary, stepped forward. She was in her 50s, with graying hair and a professional air that said she'd witnessed 1,000 signatures on 1,000 documents. "My apologies for the unannounced visit, Mrs. Thompson," she said. Carol explained it was urgent. "Urgent?" My grandmother's voice whispered in my memory. "When someone rushes you to sign papers, run the other way." But curiosity outweighed caution. I unlatched the chain and stepped back, watching Carol sweep into my apartment like she owned it. She set the coffee on my kitchen counter and immediately started scanning my living space with sharp eyes. "Cozy," she said, somehow making it sound like an insult. "Very minimalist." Patricia lingered by the door, looking professional and uneasy. "Perhaps we should discuss why we're here today." Carol waved a hand dismissively. "All in good time. Coffee first." She pushed a cup toward me. "Double vanilla latte. Your favorite, right?" I'd never told Carol my coffee order. Ever. "How'd you know that?" "Oh?" I asked around. Carol's laugh was light, but her eyes tracked my reaction. "Jason mentioned it. Or maybe your friend Sarah from school. Small world, you know." I didn't know any Sarah from school, and Jason drank his coffee black. He wouldn't know a vanilla latte from a cappuccino. "Carol," I said slowly, "what's this really about?" She perched on the edge of my couch, crossing her legs elegantly. "Well, since you're asking so directly, it's about family, making sure everyone's taken care of now that you're officially one of us." Patricia cleared her throat. "Perhaps I should explain the documents." "Oh yes, the papers." Carol clapped her hands like she'd just remembered a delightful surprise. "Patricia prepared some simple forms, nothing complicated, just a way to streamline our family finances now that you and Jason are married." "Streamline how?" "Joint financial planning, shared resources." Carol's smile didn't waver. "What makes sense when families come together? It's really a win for everyone." Patricia opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick folder of papers. "These are standard consolidation forms. They allow for more efficient management of family assets." I took the folder but didn't open it. "Assets?" "Oh, you know." Carol waved vaguely. "Real estate, investments, that sort of thing. Nothing to worry about. We'll handle all the details." The word real estate hit me like a physical blow. They knew. They definitely knew about the houses. "I'm not sure I follow," I said, playing dumb. "Jason and I are keeping our finances separate for now." Carol's tone was patient, like she was explaining something obvious to a child. But married couples need to think bigger, long-term, especially when there are opportunities to maximize benefits for everyone. I opened the folder and scanned the first page. Legal jargon filled the document, but certain phrases jumped out. Transfer of property rights, consolidated ownership, family trust management. "This looks like I'd be signing over." "Not signing over," Carol interrupted quickly. "Consolidating, pooling resources. It's completely different." Patricia shifted uncomfortably. "Mrs. Thompson, I should mention these documents require careful review. You may want to consult your own attorney." "Oh, that's not necessary," Carol snapped. "We're family. We trust each other. But I was thinking of someone else. My college roommate who'd convinced me to co-sign a credit card just for emergencies. She'd use the same tone, the same smile, when she maxed it out and left me with the debt. "You know," I said, closing the folder, "this reminds me of someone I used to know. She was always trying to help me with my finances, too." Carol's smile flickered. "Just for a second." "I'm sure I don't know what you mean." "She was very persuasive, very helpful. Right up until she cleaned out my bank account. Martha, I'm hardly going to steal from you." Carol's laugh was sharp now. "We're family." Jessica said the same thing. Called me her sister, said she had my best interests at heart. Patricia looked increasingly uneasy. "Perhaps we should reschedule this meeting. Give Mrs. Thompson time to review." "No," Carol said firmly. "We're here now. The documents are ready. There's no reason to delay." I stood, still holding the folder. "Actually, there is. I'd like to understand a few things first." "What?" I looked straight into Carol's eyes. "Who told you about my inheritance?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Carol's face cycled through a series of micro-expressions. Surprise, calculation, then that practiced smile again. "I'm not sure what you're talking about." "The houses, the rental income, my grandmother's estate. Who told you?" Patricia was now looking at Carol, clearly realizing she'd been dragged into something she didn't fully understand. Carol's eyes blinked. For a moment, her mask slipped, and I saw something cold and calculating beneath. "I don't know anything about any houses," but her voice had changed, cautious now, and I knew, without a doubt, she was lying. "Interesting," I said softly, "because I never mentioned the houses." The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Carol's coffee cup trembled slightly in her hand. Patricia cleared her throat. "Perhaps I should go." "No," I said, my voice stronger now. "I think Patricia should stay. I think she should hear what kind of documents she's been asked to notarize." Carol's confident smile was cracking at the edges, and for the first time since she'd knocked on my door, I felt in control. Carol left 20 minutes later, her confidence noticeably shaken. Patricia gathered her briefcase with visible relief, mumbling apologies about misunderstandings and the need for proper legal counsel, but I barely heard them leave. My mind was racing, connecting dots I'd been too naive to see before. The moment their car pulled away, I grabbed my laptop and started digging. First, I called the coffee shop Carol claimed was my favorite. The barista who answered had never heard of anyone named Carol asking about customer preferences. Strike one. Next comma. I checked my building's security system. As a teacher, I'd learned to be thorough when things didn't add up. Our complex had cameras in the lobby and garage, not high quality, but good enough to see who was coming and going. What I found made my blood boil. There was Carol, clear as day, talking to my landlord, Mr. Peterson, 4 days ago. They stood outside his office for nearly 10 minutes. Carol gestured animatedly while Mr. Peterson nodded and jotted something down. When their conversation ended, Carol handed him what looked like a business card. I screenshotted the timestamp and kept digging. Carol had been busy. A real estate office 2 blocks from my apartment had street-facing security cameras. Through a public records site, I accessed their footage from the past week. There was Carol again, this time with an older man I didn't recognize, pointing at building addresses and taking notes. But the discovery that made me physically ill came when I checked the security footage from Jason's parents' neighborhood. My mother-in-law had mentioned their community installed new cameras after a break-in last month. The footage was accessible to residents through an online portal. I found what I was looking for on Sunday night, 3 days before Carol's unannounced visit. Carol's silver BMW was parked in the Thompsons' driveway at 8:47 p.m. She stayed for over 2 hours. Through the grainy footage, I could see figures moving inside the house, shadows cast against the living room window. At one point, someone spread papers across what looked like a dining table. This wasn't a casual visit, this was a planning session. My hands shook as I reached for my phone. I needed answers, and I knew exactly who to call. Harold Brennan's office, came the familiar voice of my grandmother's lawyer's secretary. Margaret, it's Martha Thompson. Martha Williams, as was. Is Harold free? It's urgent. Within minutes, Harold's gravelly voice came on the line. Martha, my dear, I was wondering when I'd hear from you. How's married life? Harold, someone knows about the houses. They showed up at my place today with papers to sign. A long pause. I see. Tell me everything. I spilled the whole story, the visit, the notary, the security footage. Harold listened without interrupting, making small noises that told me he was thinking hard. Martha, he said finally, your grandmother specifically warned me this might happen. She made me promise to tell you something if anyone started sniffing around. What? She had me run a background check on Jason's family before your engagement. Nothing invasive, just public records, financial history, business dealings, that sort of thing. My heart sank. What did you find? Jason's father is in trouble. His construction business took on too much debt during the pandemic. They're in deep. To banks, subcontractors, even the IRS. Carol's in debt too. Her boutique clothing store is barely afloat, and her downtown condo is mortgaged to the hilt. It all clicked into place, like the final pieces of a puzzle. They knew about the inheritance from the start. Looks that way. Your grandmother suspected they might do their own digging. She had me keep all the paperwork under lock and key and insisted the houses be registered to a trust, with you as the sole beneficiary. A trust. I'd never heard about this. The Elizabeth Williams Family Trust. Your grandmother set it up 3 years ago. It means the houses technically aren't even yours until you meet certain criteria. What criteria? Well, one is being married to a man who doesn't make a claim on the property. Another is proving your family is trying to access the assets without your consent. I almost laughed. Even from the grave, Grandma Elizabeth was protecting me. She knew this would happen. She was a very wise woman and very cautious. She also left you something else. What else? A private investigator. She paid for his services a year in advance with instructions to monitor any attempts to access your assets. His name's Daniel Crow. He's already on the job. The world spun around me. A private investigator? This whole time? Martha, dear, your grandmother lived long enough to know money makes people cruel, especially family money. She wanted to make sure you were prepared. I heard the sound of a key in the lock. Jason was home from work early. Harold, I have to go. My husband's home. Martha, be very careful. Don't sign anything they bring you, and don't tell Jason about the investigator, not until you know whose side he's on. I hung up just as Jason walked into the living room. He looked tense, his usually neat hair disheveled, his tie loosened. Hey, honey, he said, but something in his tone was off, too cheerful, too forced. How was your day? Fine, I said cautiously. Yours? Oh, work stuff. He turned away, unbuttoning his shirt. By the way, Carol called, said she stopped by today. There it was. He knew about the visit, maybe even planned it. Yeah, she did, with a notary. Jason froze, his back stiffening. A notary? What for? She brought some papers to sign, something about family financial planning. He turned slowly, and for the first time I saw something new in his eyes. Something calculating. And what did you do? Said I wanted to review them first, talk to a lawyer. Martha, his voice softened, but I could hear the strain beneath it. We're family. Carol's trying to help us. Her proposal could be really good for us. Good how? Tax benefits, investment opportunities. She knows more about finance than you or I do. I looked at the man I'd married just 2 weeks ago and saw a stranger, someone who lied as easily as he breathed. Jason, I never told you about any inheritance or rental income. His face cycled through emotions, surprise, confusion, then something like relief. Of course not. I don't know what you're talking about. Then how does Carol know? Know what? About the houses, Jason. The 4 houses my grandmother left me. The silence stretched between us. I watched him decide whether to keep pretending or switch tactics. Martha, he said finally, why didn't you tell me about the houses? Because they're mine, and because I wanted to see who you were when you thought I had nothing. That's not fair. We're husband and wife. We're supposed to share everything. Like you shared your family's plan to take my property? His face flushed. No one's trying to take anything. Carol just wants to help us maximize our assets. Our assets? Jason, they're not our assets. They're my assets. I inherited them. I manage them. I collect the income from them. Martha, be reasonable. We're married. Legally, what's yours is mine. And there it was. He'd shown his hand. I saw the greed in his eyes, the same look I'd seen in Carol's at the wedding. Actually, I said calmly, no. Property inherited before marriage remains separate, especially when it's held in a trust. His eyes narrowed. A trust? Yes, Jason. The Elizabeth Williams Family Trust. Want to know what's interesting about it? He didn't answer, but I continued. It protects the assets from spouses who marry the beneficiary with intent to access their inheritance. Martha, that's ridiculous. I married you because I love you. Then why did you research my inheritance? Why did Carol know about the houses? Why was your family meeting last Sunday to plan how to get me to sign those papers? His face paled. I don't know what you're talking about. Jason, I have security footage. He sank onto the couch, head in his hands. Martha, you don't understand. My family's in trouble. Dad's business collapsed. Carol's lost almost everything. We hoped if there was a way to pool resources. Steal my property, you mean? Not steal, combine, invest. Make the money work for all of us. I walked to the window and looked out at the street. The sun was setting, painting the sky pink and gold. A beautiful evening. An evening that should have been filled with talk of our future, our dreams, our plans, instead, I was staring at the ruins of my 2-week-old marriage. Jason, I said, not turning around, I want you to know something. What? If you'd just told me about your family's financial problems, I would have helped. If you'd been honest with me, trusted me, I would have found a way to support the people I love. I heard him stand. Martha, please, we can fix this. We can start over. But instead, you lied to me. You and your family conspired against me. You tried to trick me into giving up the one thing that made me independent. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. And you know what's worse? I really loved you. I thought we were building something real together. Tears streamed down his cheeks. Martha, please. I still love you. We can still build something real. No, Jason, we can't. Because real is built on trust, and trust is built on truth. And you've been lying to me from the start. He tried to approach me, but I stepped back. I'm staying at a hotel tonight. Tomorrow, I want you to move out. Martha, you can't do this. This is our apartment. No, Jason, it's my apartment. I pay the rent. My things are here, and I need space to figure out what comes next. I went to the bedroom and started packing a bag. Jason followed, pleading, apologizing, promising things would be different, Dot. But I wasn't listening anymore. I was thinking about Grandma Elizabeth, her wisdom, how she knew this day would come. I thought about the 4 houses, which were more than money. They were freedom, independence, the ability to control my own life, Dot. And I thought about what I'd say to Carol when she called tomorrow, demanding an answer about her documents, Dot. Because now I had an answer, Dot. The next morning, I sat in Harold Brennan's office, reviewing files from the private investigator. Daniel Crow was a man in his 60s, with gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. He spread photos, documents, and transcripts across the conference table, like a general planning a battle. Your grandmother was right, Miss Williams, he said. The Thompsons have been investigating you for months. They hired their own PI to dig into your background before your engagement. He showed me photos. Carol meeting a man outside a courthouse, Jason's father reviewing documents in a cafe, even Jason's mother talking to someone near the school where I worked. They knew about the inheritance from the start, Daniel continued, but they didn't know about the trust. That's what's tripping them up the most. How did they even find out? Public probate records. When your grandmother died, her will became public. But she was smart. She only listed various assets in the will, not specifying the houses. Harold leaned back in his chair. Elizabeth was paranoid in the best way. She anticipated every scenario. What about the documents Carol brought? Daniel slid another folder my way. A legal disaster. If you'd signed them, you'd have handed over all management rights to a family trust controlled by Jason's father. They could have sold the houses, invested the money, done whatever they wanted. You'd just be a beneficiary with a right to reasonable maintenance. Reasonable maintenance? Means they'd decide how much money you needed to live on. The rest they could use for family purposes. I felt sick. They wanted to make me dependent on them. Worse, Harold said. They wanted to control you. Elizabeth saw schemes like this before. That's why she set up such an airtight trust. What do I do now? Daniel grinned. Not kindly, but like a predator. Miss Williams, you have options. You can just say no and file for divorce. Or you can teach them a lesson about what happens when you try to scam a smart woman. What kind of lesson? Your grandmother left you another gift, the right to sue for fraud against anyone who tries to access your assets through deception. Harold nodded. Elizabeth was very forward-thinking. She included a clause in the trust that lets you sue for triple the value of the assets if anyone attempts to steal them. Triple the value? The houses are worth $600,000. A lawsuit could be for $1.8 million, plus attorney fees, plus damages. I felt something cold and resolute settle in my chest. Grandma Elizabeth didn't just protect me, she gave me a weapon. What do I need to do? First, Daniel said, we let them think they're winning. Let Carol believe you're considering their offer. Let her get cocky. They'll call today, demanding an answer. Perfect. Tell them you want to meet tomorrow. Say you're open to their proposal but want some changes to the documents. What changes? Harold pulled out another folder. We've prepared a counter-proposal. Documents that look like they give them what they want but actually protect your interests and set up grounds for a lawsuit. Is that legal? Absolutely. We're not deceiving them. We're offering a fair alternative. If they reject it and keep pushing the fraudulent documents, we'll have clear evidence of their intent, Daniel added. Plus, we've recorded their conversations with your landlord and the real estate agent. We have proof they were researching your property without your permission. Is that illegal? In New York, yes. Obtaining private financial information through deception is a misdemeanor, enough for an arrest. I stood at the office window, looking out at the city below. Somewhere out there was Carol, probably plotting her next move. Somewhere out there was Jason, maybe packing his bags or more likely calling his family to report their plan had failed. But they didn't know Grandma Elizabeth was 2 steps ahead of them. "Okay," I said, turning to the men, "let's teach them a lesson." As Daniel predicted, Carol called at 2:30 p.m. "Martha, darling," her voice dripped with fake sweetness, "I was hoping to hear from you this morning. Have you reviewed the documents?" "Yes," I said, following the script we'd rehearsed. "They're pretty complex. I think we need to meet again." "Of course. I'm so glad you're taking this seriously. It's really what's best for everyone." "The thing is," I let a hint of uncertainty creep into my voice, "my banker wants me to make a few small changes. Nothing major, just some wording to protect myself." A brief pause. I could almost hear the gears turning in her head. "What kind of changes?" "Nothing that changes the spirit of the agreement. Just some clauses about how decisions are made, what qualifies as family expenses, that sort of thing." "Martha, the documents are already drafted. Patricia put a lot of time into them." "I understand, but my banker says it's standard precaution. He won't let me enter a financial agreement without them." Another pause, longer this time. "Fine. Can you email me the changes?" "I think it's better to meet in person. Some things are easier to explain face to face." "Absolutely. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., I'll bring Patricia." "Perfect." "And Carol?" "Yes?" "Thanks for looking out for us. I really appreciate having family who wants to help." Her laugh was like breaking glass. "Of course, darling. Family always takes care of family." After she hung up, I called Harold. "She took the bait." "Excellent. Daniel will be outside with recording equipment. I'll be in the next room in case you need legal backup." "What if they refuse to sign the new documents?" "Then we move to Plan B, which is arrest for fraud, a lawsuit for damages, and a very public divorce that shows the world what happens when people try to take advantage of a widow." For the first time in days, I felt something like peace. Grandma Elizabeth always said, "The best defense is a good offense. Tomorrow, I'd find out if she was right." Carol arrived the next morning at 9:45, 15 minutes early. She was dressed even more impressively than before, a sharp gray suit that screamed power and control. Patricia trailed behind, looking less confident than last time. "Martha," Carol hugged me like we were best friends. "You look radiant. Marriage suits you." If only she knew I'd spent the last 2 nights in a hotel. "Thanks, Carol. Coffee." That'd be lovely." While I prepared the coffee, I saw Carol scanning my apartment more closely than before. Her eyes lingered on every item, assessing, calculating. She even glanced at my mail on the kitchen counter. "So," she said, settling onto the couch, "show me these changes." I handed her the folder with the documents Harold had prepared. They looked official, full of legal jargon and seals. Carol skimmed them, her eyebrows rising higher with each page. "Martha, this is quite a lot of changes. My banker said they're necessary. This clause here," she pointed to a page, "requires unanimous consent from all family members for any financial decisions." "That's standard," I said innocently. "And this," she flipped another page, "requires full disclosure of every family member's assets and debts." Patricia leaned in to look. "Mrs. Thompson, these provisions significantly alter the nature of the agreement." "In what way?" Carol set the documents down. "Martha, we need to be practical. These changes make the agreement too complicated. Too many hurdles." "But they protect everyone's interests," I said. "Isn't that what we want?" "Of course, but..." Carol exchanged a glance with Patricia. "Maybe we should stick with the original documents. They're already properly drafted." I pretended to consider it. But my banker was very firm. He said without these safeguards, he can't recommend I sign anything. "Martha," Carol's voice sharpened, "sometimes bankers are overly cautious. They don't understand family dynamics. But isn't caution good when it comes to my grandmother's inheritance? Your grandmother would have wanted you to be part of the family, to trust us." I stood and walked to the window. "You know, Carol, it's funny you mention my grandmother. She always told me something interesting." "What?" she said. Martha, if someone rushes you to sign papers, especially financial papers, run the other way. Carol tried to laugh. She was a wise woman, but times have changed. Modern families work differently. She also said, I turned to face her, that people who truly care about you will never mind if you get legal advice. Martha, what are you trying to say? I'm saying I want my lawyer to review all the documents, original and revised, before I sign anything. Carol's face darkened. Your lawyer? That's a bit excessive, don't you think? For $600,000? I think it's reasonable. $600,000? Patricia looked at Carol, shocked. You didn't tell me it was that much money. It's not relevant, Carol said quickly. What matters is we're family. Interesting, I said, because my lawyer says the original documents would have given you control over assets worth $600,000 in exchange for reasonable maintenance for me. That's a misinterpretation. He also says if I'd signed those documents, you could have sold the houses, invested the money in your father's business, and I'd never see a penny. Carol stood, her mask finally slipping. Martha, I won't let you accuse us of fraud. Fraud? I tilted my head. I didn't say that word. You implied. I implied I want to protect my grandmother's inheritance. If that sounds like fraud to you, maybe you should ask yourself why. Patricia gathered her papers. I think I should go. This isn't the kind of transaction I'm comfortable facilitating. Wait, Carol said. Martha, be reasonable. Jason's father is losing his house. My business is collapsing. We're family. We're supposed to help each other. Help each other. Anger rose in me. Carol, if you just come to me and said, Martha, we're in financial trouble. Can you help? I would have helped. I would have found a way. Then help now. But instead you lied to me. You and your family investigated me for months trying to figure out what I had. You conspired to trick me into signing papers that would have stripped me of control over my own inheritance. It was exactly that. And you know what's worse? Jason was in on it. Carol sank back into the couch, her fight gone. Martha, please, we're desperate. Desperation doesn't justify fraud. What are you going to do? I walked to the door and opened it. I'm going to protect what my grandmother left me, and I'm going to make sure you never try to take advantage of someone like this again. What does that mean? It means my lawyer is filing a fraud lawsuit tomorrow morning against you, against your father, against everyone involved in this scheme. Carol paled. You can't do that. We don't have the money for a lawsuit. You should have thought of that before. Patricia hurried to the door. I've never seen these people before in my life. After they left, I closed the door and leaned against it. My phone rang almost immediately. How'd it go? Harold asked. She showed her hand. Did Daniel get it all? Every word. We have everything we need. What's next? Tomorrow, we file the papers. Fraud lawsuit, damages claim, and a restraining order to keep them away from you and your property. And Jason? Divorce papers will be filed at the same time. I looked at the wedding ring on my finger. 2 weeks ago, I thought it symbolized a new beginning. Now it felt like a shackle. Okay. I sat in the garden behind one of my grandmother's houses, the one I'd moved into after the divorce. It was a small Victorian with hardwood floors and a working fireplace. A house that felt like a home. The lawsuit settled 3 months ago. Carol and her family agreed to a settlement that covered all my legal fees and included a public apology. They also agreed never to contact me again. Jason tried to fight the divorce, claiming he didn't know about his family's plans, but the private investigator's records proved otherwise. He was at every family meeting, helped research my background, and even suggested ways to access my financial records. The divorce was finalized a month ago. My phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. Martha, it's Daniel. I've got some interesting news. What? Remember I said I'd keep tabs on the Thompsons? Well, it looks like they're at it again. What do you mean? They've targeted another woman, a widow named Rose Chen. She recently inherited her husband's successful restaurant. They're trying to do the same thing to her? Looks like it. Carol befriended her in a widow's support group, very similar to how they approached you. That familiar wave of anger surged through me. We can't let them do this. Agreed. The question is, what do you want to do about it? I looked at the house around me, the security my grandmother's inheritance had given me. Then I thought about another woman who could lose everything to a family that saw lies and manipulation as acceptable solutions to their problems. I want to warn her, and I want to make sure she's protected. That could be risky, Martha. If they find out you're interfering, let them try something. I have the best lawyer in town, a PI on retainer, and 4 houses that give me financial independence. And what's the plan? I want to start a fund. Something that helps women protect themselves from financial predators. Something my grandmother would approve of. The Elizabeth Williams Fund? Exactly. And I want Rose Chen to be our first case. After I hung up, I went inside and pulled out a photo of my grandmother from a box I was still unpacking. It showed her standing in front of her first house, a young woman with determined eyes and proud posture. "Thank you, Grandma," I whispered to the photo, "for teaching me to protect myself, for giving me the tools to protect others." I placed the photo on the mantle where she could watch over the house she'd helped me keep. A house that wasn't just a place to live, but a symbol of the independence no one could take from me. The next day, I started working on the fund. By the end of the week, I had a meeting with Rose Chen, who cried with relief when I told her what I knew about the Thompsons' plans. A month later, Carol Thompson was back in court, this time for attempting to scam a second widow. Only this time, she didn't have the element of surprise. She didn't have a naive target. She had me. Some people never learn. But some women learn to protect themselves, and others. Grandma Elizabeth would have been proud. This story is a reminder that financial independence isn't just about money. It's about freedom, security, and the ability to control your own life. It's about making choices based on love, not fear. If you're a woman watching this, remember, your assets are yours. Your independence is yours. And no one, not family, not friends, not romantic partners, has the right to take them from you through deception. Trust your instincts. Protect what's yours. And never be afraid to ask for help when you feel someone's trying to take advantage of you. Elizabeth Williams knew money could change people. But she also knew that money, used right, could change the world. The Elizabeth Williams Fund continues to help women protect themselves from financial predators. And every time we save someone's independence, we honor the legacy of a wise woman who knew the best way to protect what you love is to be ready to fight for it. If this story resonated with you, please like, comment, and subscribe. Share it with the women in your life who need to hear it. Let's keep spreading the message that we're stronger when we stand together. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.